And a very good afternoon. Welcome to the Saturday preview with myself, David Massey, for the Daily Punt for racing on the 26th of March. It is the start of the flat season. Doncaster comes back, leading into view, and I think it's a bit of a strange one, the start of the flat season. You get Doncaster, you get this sort of big opening day, and then it just sort of goes quiet again, really, for a couple of weeks. It's all a bit strange. But anyway, it's by the by. I will touch on Doncaster. I can tell you what I won't be touching on. The good lady asked me, would I be doing a preview of the Dubai World Cup? And the answer to that is no. I will not be going anywhere near the Dubai World Cup. So if you're looking for a preview for the Dubai World Cup, unlucky. If, however, you're looking for a preview of the 2 0 to 100 handicap hurdles at Stratford and the Go North Cab on Target handicap hurdle at Kelso, you've come to the right place, because I've got some quite interesting ones tomorrow in those races. Right, we better crack on, because there's a bit to do. We'll touch on Doncaster first. Now, I think the first thing to say with Doncaster, whereas the rest of the country seems to be drying out quite nicely, Doncaster's not. Still good to soft in places at 7:30 this morning, and that's been the same for about 3 days now. It's not really drying out that much, and it's sort of putting me off getting stuck in to anything, because we've still got, I'm talking to you just after lunchtime on Friday, and we've still got, as part of a sort of day and a bit more of drying weather still to go. What's it going to ride like tomorrow? Is it just going to now dry out towards good? Is it still going to be good to soft tomorrow? It's putting me off a little bit from tipping a lot up at Doncaster tomorrow. I'll touch on the races that I think are excuse me, I think are interesting. The Cambridge Trophy at 150 is one of the bigger races on the card and better races on the card. Any cut in the ground, and I think it's against Diligent Harry. I think he wants proper, genuine, quick ground, Diligent Harry, and he's been putting at 5-2. I would have him a bit, if there's cut in the ground, I'd have him a little bit bigger. The more I look at Gareth here, Charles Hills, the more I think he's just different class than these. I really do. You look at some of his efforts from last summer. Beaten under 3 lengths in the Diamond Jubilee by Dream on Dreams, beaten around about 3 lengths in the July Cup, and then came out and won a Grade 3 at Deauville. I mean, these are good performances. These are good runs, and I don't think, Diligent Harry aside, that there's anything in here that can get to that sort of a level. Charles Hills normally has his horses very well forward through the season. He's been putting around about 15-8, 2-1. It would not be the biggest price to see him go off near a 5-4, 11-8 tomorrow. He'll act with some cut in the ground. That won't be a problem. That one of his better runs last year, of course, was in the Diamond Jubilee on soft ground, so that isn't a problem if there's still some cut left. I just think he's different class than these. I really do. It's only a listed contest, this, and when you think about what he was doing last summer, I just think he's too good. I think 15-8. I don't often put favourites up on here, but I think 15-8 is actually a very fair price for Gareth. And I certainly wouldn't be putting you off of him. The 225 is the disappointing Spring Mile. Earlier in the week, when I was sort of looking at this, and I thought Mostawar might be interesting. He was third in the race last year after blowing the start, but whether I want to get involved at 6-1, given he was a much bigger price than that in the week, I'm not so sure. He's had a couple of runs to keep him on the go through the winter at Campton. If he returned to the form that he showed in this last year, when he was, as I say, beaten under a length, I think, by Autistic Rifles, that would give him a terrific chance. But you've got the improving Empire State of Mind in here, and he's rightly favourite. Here he acts on all ground. The more I look, the more I just think it's a no-play race for me. It's a disappointing turnout. You wanted a big field handicap again here, and then I think Mostawar might have been a bit more interesting at a bigger price. I've no interest in the Doncaster Mile. Chindit's been putting odds on. I'm not sure Chindit's the sort of odds-on chance that I'd want to be backing, but again, taking it on is not easy. And then we come to the Lincoln, where you've got 3 at the front of the field that they take up a huge percentage, really. You've got Modern News, of Charlie Appleby's, third out in Maidan, still going the right way. You've got this Mudge to Bar that might be the latest William Haggis handicapper in a Group 1 horse in a handicap type thing. Who knows what that's capable of doing. Hosed upon his last start at Red Car final season. Again, you just don't know. And similarly, Salayam from the Crisfords, who's coming back off a wind operation. Those three between them have only had about 11, 12 runs and they're unexposed. The chances are one of them wins. And that sort of makes this, I mean, this used to be a handicap where, those of us of a certain age, there used to be a little formula that you could use for the Lincoln. You could basically rule anything out that was drawn high, stroke, low, depending on which way the ground was going. Rule anything out that had been hurdling, rule anything out that was claimer ridden, rule anything out that hadn't at least won over the trip. And you could narrow it down to 3 or 4, quite easily. Them days, sadly, are long gone. And as a betting medium, it makes less appeal now because these unexposed sorts tend to pop up for them year in, year out. Let me give you two at a bigger price. And then one of them is unexposed. One of them is Road Bear. Now, disclaimer here, I've backed Road Bear in the week at about twice the price he is now. I had a little bit each way at 33. 5 starts last season as a 3-year-old, won 3 of them. Did nothing but improve all last season. Has the stamina for this. He showed that at Nottingham a couple of times when he won over a mile and a half a furlong at the back end of the season. Really game him, I thought, last time when we saw him in October, because he looked beaten at certain stages there, and he really knuckled down to force a dead heat with Hot Chestnut that day. Starts this season off 87, and I think that's very fair. And I'm not being rude here to Tom Clover. I like Tom Clover. I think he's a very, very good trainer. But I think if this was trained by a Haggis or a Crisford, it'd be a sight shorter than 16-1. It'd be half that, given that you're looking at an unexposed 4-year-old with a lot more to come. He's won on good. He's won on good to firm, and he's won on soft, so the ground don't bother him. He's already won at Doncaster, having won here on his debut last year. There's plenty to like, and 16, there's probably still a little bit of juice in that price. I could see him going off single figures tomorrow, 8-9-1. I could see that. If you want to take a swing at something at a massive price, then probably What's the Story, trained by Keith Dalglish, might be the one. The issue with What's the Story is you will need the ground to keep drying up. He doesn't really want any cut in the ground. So again, it's a case of looking at those first couple of races tomorrow. Has it dried up enough for What's the Story? Good ground to be fine. The key to What's the Story is catching him fresh each season. If you look at his record fresh, it's very, very good. A couple of wins and a couple of places. One bad effort at Ascot. But Ascot's never really been his track anyway, so I'm happy to sort of forgive that. He was second in the listed mile here last year, second to top ranked. At that time, he was rated, it wasn't a handicap, of course, but he was rated 104. He's 101 now. The handicap has given him a right chance this season to start off with. And I think we're going to see that same sort of dropping of old handicappers as we've seen over the jumps this season, carried over to the flat. I think, aged horses are going to be dropped quicker. And that might be an angle in the first sort of couple of months of the season. Horses, old boys that go well fresh, might have been dropped a chunk from the end of last season if they were running badly. So it's worth keeping an eye out for some of these old lads who are best caught fresh over the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks, I think, because the handicapper will have given him a right go first time up. And the key to What's the Story, as we say, listen, he's got form at Doncaster on a straight mile, catching him fresh. 33s is still available in a couple of places, although I see that starting to go now. Again, I'd have him near sort of half that price, especially if it's dried up. So I think if you look for something at a big price, then What's the Story ticks a lot of boxes. Right, let's have a look at these jump races then. These are fun and games. I'll be at Stratford tomorrow. 7-race card. They did split one of the races, and thankfully they had the good sense to put it on the front of the card, not the back end of the card. There's nothing worse than working till 5:45 on a Saturday. So the two interesting races are the second and the third race, where they've split this 0 to 100 handicap hurdle. And you've got 12 in the first, 11 in the second. And so you're going to get quick ground tomorrow at Stratford. They are watering, but it dries so fast at Stratford. The first half of it first race at 2:18 is arguably the slightly more interesting one. You've got Ballybean here that's been putting it 11-4. Now, Ballybean's latest piece of form, where it was 4th to Tim Pat at Bangor, has been franked by the winner since. He's gone chasing and won the Tim Maloney earlier in the week. And handicap has left him off 100, so he's able to race against the same grade again. What I would say is the ground is going to be totally different for Ballybean tomorrow. What he's been doing so far has all been on soft and heavy ground. It raises a question. He might get away with it, but equally there are others in here that I think want this ground as opposed to might get away with it. And the two interesting ones are the 5 horse here, Crystal Moon, coming back off a break, and the wind operation for Alan King, and a bit further down on the card, Ernie Bilko for Richard Bandy. Now, I'll take you through both of them quickly. Crystal Moon was dead unlucky, really unlucky not to win his bumper around this time last year at Plumpton. He was travelling like the best horse and then stumbled really badly on the home turn and got beaten short head. Now, you'd have thought from that he was going to go on, but he never has. It's been disappointing ever since then. He's had 4 starts and got beaten around about 40 lengths in 3 of them and absolutely whacked, tailed off on his latest novice hurdle start. That was back in December. But that was on softer ground. I think what this horse wants is genuine good ground, like so many of Alan's, and he gets that tomorrow. It's a bit chancy because it might just be he's completely gone. And the 11-2 looks no more than a fair price, because you are taking a chance that on his handicap debut he's now going to improve for the wind operation. If he does and he comes back to the bumper form, terrific chance. But I think Ernie Bilko, another one having his handicap debut, I think he's been laid out for something like this. He was with Laura Horsfall for his first 4 starts of last year. Showed a little bit in a bumper. I know he finished last of 9 at Ascot behind Esther Carr, but that was a good race and he didn't get beaten far. And he sort of ran to a similar sort of level first time up over hurdles. They straight away went straight in, up to 3 mile on good ground. And he ran all right in a maiden hurdle. It was always about getting him handicapped since then. Then he disappointed at Doncaster. Then he went to Richard Bandy. And Richard basically realised that what this horse wants is going to be 3 mile and good ground. The dam, Molly's Case, is a half sister to a horse that a few of you might remember that John Joe had a few years ago called Keep It Secret. And what Keep It Secret wanted was 3 mile on almost a road as far as ground went. So the fact that Richard then brought this horse back to 2 miles and soft ground for its handicap run is surely significant. He basically realised that he could keep the mark right down by running it over the wrong trip and on the wrong ground, and he did that. That was just over a month ago. Comes out tomorrow up to 2 mile 6 on what is going to be quick ground. I think you'll see a different horse tomorrow with Ernie Bilko. I really do. Currently 7-1 with Hills. If this horse went off 5-2 tomorrow, it would not be the biggest surprise. For a yard that's going really well too, Richard Bandy, 3 winners out of his last 10. There's a lot to like about Ernie Bilko's chance tomorrow, because I think what you're going to see is a different horse. You're going to see a massively improved horse. Now it gets what it wants. The second half of this wonderful 0-100 is 35 minutes later, 2:53, and it's a less interesting contest in so much as most of these are pretty much exposed. The obvious one, I suppose, will be Fine by Her, who turned in a much better effort at Hereford last time. Hard to see where that came from, because he'd already dropped about £15 in 4 runs. But if she can reproduce that, she's got a big chance. I'm almost sort of loath to put this up, but each way, chances are we might get 4 places on this race if we're lucky. And even if we don't, I think the interesting one, and I would be sort of putting more towards the place part of the bet than I would the win part, would be Galactic Power. Now, poor old Robin Dickin ain't had a winner now for about 10 months. It's getting on for. He nearly had one at Southwell in the week at 100-1. Ballonsay Bridge, if it had jumped the last properly, would in all likelihood have won And interestingly, I saw Robin dragging a bit off of it, so they had a little bit each way on that. And I don't see Robin bet very often, but he must have had a tenner each way on it. Anyway, that's by the by. Whether Robin's about to start having a better spell, I don't know. I've thought that a couple of times, and then he's gone back to disappointed again. And there's simply too many of his horses that pull up to be confident. But hopefully, we should get a price about Galactic Power tomorrow, who wants good ground, and that is the key. If you look at his last 5 efforts, where he's finished second, third, pulled up, third, pulled up, the 2 pulled ups have come on soft and heavy ground. Take those out, and he's been placed on his last 3 at trips similar to today's on good ground in very similar handicaps. And the handicapper's doing all he can to help. He's now, he's now £5 lower than the first of those efforts. The worry is, as I say, that Robin just isn't having winners. But if you can bet in place only, and hopefully you should get around about sort of 3 to 1, 7 to 2, so even as a place only bet, I think he's got a very good chance of hitting the frame. And Robin's he's got to have a winner again soon at some point, you'd hope. And it might be this one because they found the right race for it. The trip's ideal. The ground will be superb. The ground will be absolutely ideal for him. Ben Post takes the ride. He was on a couple of runs ago when he knows the horse when it was third. There's a lot to like about him as a place only bet. And I'll have a small win bet as well at around about sort of 16 to 1 tomorrow. He should continue to drift. I don't see any reason why he should get backed. And the final race I'll have a look at before we say goodbye is this Kelso race. The Kelso card is disappointing tomorrow. There's decent prize money on offer, but look at these fields: 6, 3, 4, 9, 5. It's not great. The only big field of the day, aside from the bumper, comes in this Go North Cab on Target handicap hurdle final. And you can make cases for plenty. It's one of those races where, you know, a lot of them are coming here off the back of decent efforts. The one I think is overpriced though, and by some way, it's one of the rank outsiders. Kiss My Face for Alan Partridge fans. Kiss My Face. What Kiss My Face wants is 2.5 mile on decent ground. So again, his last 2 efforts, both 2 mile on good to soft at Musselburgh and 2 mile at Leicester in a claimer in soft ground. I'd be happy to put a pen through those straight away. The previous 2 efforts, both over 2.5 mile. The first one was really good. That was behind Rickety Gate last October. That was the qualifier for this when he finished third, doing plenty of decent late work. Finished off well, got beaten under 10 lengths. That was off a mark of 105. It's off 98 tomorrow, so it's dropped £7 in that meantime. I think it should be about half the price here, Kiss My Face, because there's plenty I can't have in the race. And if he can return to that sort of form, he's got a chance of hitting the places at worst. He really has. I think he's quite interesting because we'll get 4 places for this, if not 5 in the odd place. And I think if Kiss My Face can re-find form on better ground, there's no way it's a 33 to 1 chance. So it's a case of having to discard a couple of runs, but there's a ready excuse for them and concentrate on early sort of November, autumn form, that October-November form. Those 2 runs give it every chance here. And 33 to 1 looks too big with all the extra places. So what's my best bet tomorrow? I think Ernie Bilko in that that second race at Stratford, the first half of the 0 to 100. I just think you're going to see a much, much better performance, and I would not be surprised if Ernie Bilko turns into a gamble as race time approaches. 7 to 1 looks a very fair price to me for a horse that's completely unexposed, and for the first time will have its conditions tomorrow for a yard going well. So there we go. Have a good weekend. We've got Aintree approaching in a couple of weeks' time. I will start to look at the National as we know what ground we're getting as much as anything, because if the weather is set to turn next week, as the weather forecasters lead us to believe, then we might be looking at softer ground come Aintree than we think we're getting. Have a good weekend, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.